Welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk, the podcast exploring tech landscape, cloud hosting, and IT infrastructure. Whether you're a professional or new to tech, Leaseweb Tech Talk got you covered. Join us for latest trend, business cases, insightful interviews, and useful tips. Welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk. Myself, Amali Sobhan, your host today, and I have Gabriel Zanon with me, who is product manager here at Leaseweb. So, Gabriel, today we want to speak about the topic that has becoming increasingly relevant, which is big data management and analytics, and where it's very relevant for SMEs these days. So, what's your take on this? And specifically, before we jump into the topic about the whole thing, I want to understand what is big data.
So, with big data, we identify those large data sets of unstructured, unprocessed data that, if analyzed correctly, can bring valuable insights for the companies. Now, many times people think that big data is exclusively for very large enterprises.
I was thinking the same until today.
But that's actually not true, also thanks to the advancement in technology and in storage solutions. And that's why small and medium enterprises are also getting into the world of big data. It's very important because anyone needs insights, and these insights must be data-driven. The more data you can process, the better it is. However, in order for a small medium enterprise to be able to process everything that is contained in a data lake, for big data, they need to understand the data itself. And this can be done with the famous 5 V's.
Okay.
Which we can summarize it with volumes, velocity, variety, veracity, and value. Okay. That's what is necessary to analyze. With volume, we intend the sheer amount of data. I mean, how much megabyte, gigabyte, petabyte are going to occupy your data. That's the basic one of the basic meter that you need to check. Then we have velocity. It must not be confused with other terms like throughput or bandwidth. No, with velocity we intend the speed at what the data that you must analyze will be generated. For example, you want to analyze photos. What's the speed that these photos are generated? Is it a 1 photo in a time lapse, one photo per minute, or is a burst of 10 images per second? This will greatly influence the velocity and the analysis of speed that you need to have and the processing power behind. Then we have the variety. What kind of data are you analyzing? Are those XML files? Are media images? Are those videos? Are those PDF documents? Are audio files where you need to do speech to text? These are all elements that influence the variety. Maybe you have just one type of data. Maybe you have multiple types of data. And all of this needs to be taken in consideration because they will influence also the other parameters. Then you have veracity. The veracity is how pertinent is the data that you have for your specific need, is the data correct? Because a lot of data may be not ideal, can be corrupted, it can be misleading, if not completely wrong. So doing a good data veracity means to ensure that the content you're about to analyze is pertinent to the result you want to have. And this brings us to the final element, which is value, which is the final goal. What's the insight that you want to obtain? What's the value that you want to obtain after you analyze all this data? So this is what it means in a world of big data to understand the data itself. This is what's necessary to do. And of course, storage solutions are at the basis in order to achieve this fit, because initially when the world of big data was born, you need to prepare petabytes among petabytes of data. You need to have massive data centers. You need to have a lot of processing power. But of course, in the advantage of the course of the year is that today we have much more modern infrastructure, much bigger storage. So even now, even small and medium enterprises can think about entering in the world of the big data without spending extreme capitals.
So I want to also understand a little bit here. What's the relationship of this big data and the storage solution for SMEs?
Again, depending by the data you want to analyze and the result you want to obtain, you might need different storage solutions. In the previous episode, we talked about cloud, on-premise, or hybrid solution. And depending by the industry you are in and the device, for example, if you're a company that analyzes smart devices, so you might want to opt for an edge computing solution. So you have your edge infrastructure, you process data of your devices that are nearby at the beginning of your product development, and you obtain very valuable insight, and then you store everything in your data center. So that's an extremely big advantage. If you don't have the necessity to analyze data quickly, but you simply want to store this kind of material and then you process it later, you might consider just simply purchasing a big object storage, which has an efficient cost per gigabyte amount. So without spending a fortune, you will be able to have a valuable repository. What's really important when you store this kind of data, which usually is very big, you need to, it is probably one of the biggest challenges of big data, where you have a data lake, which you have this massive amount of data sets that needs to be processed. This data needs to be managed, they need to be indexed, they need to be they need to be able to search them properly and then process them. If you don't have this capability, so if in your data lake doesn't have a management system or it's not working properly, so you don't know exactly where is your data and what kind of data you have, that's where you might encounter problems, and that's where you start talking about a data swamp instead of data lake. So
if you can take some time to share with the listeners, what is exactly data lake?
A data lake, we need to make a difference between data lake and data warehouse. A data lake is usually a big container that contains large amount of unstructured data.
Okay.
That's what a data lake is. It is ready to be processed. Then you have a data warehouse. Data warehouse is where all the processed data has been placed and is usually optimized for querying. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. And you need to have these two locations, because usually you don't do querying, you don't do research on data that is still not processed. It doesn't make any sense, of course. First, you need to process and refine those data in order to obtain valuable set of data that are useful for analytics and to obtain the result you want. That's why you want to differentiate these two environments in the big data environment.
So Gabriel, it seems like object storage is the best fit for any SMEs when they want to have big data and analyze those big data.
Object storage is a part of the big data because, again, you need to distinguish between unprocessed, raw, unstructured data and then processed data. And if the data is going to be just is going to reside there and then distributed lately, or you need to keep it for processing. Object storage plays a big part in big data. First of all, for its extreme scalability. Depending by the amount of data you want to process and you want to store, then object storage is one of the best solutions you can obtain because you can scale to the level of exabyte with ease.
Yeah. Also, I understood, because we just discussed it a little bit, because the company or any SMEs needs to analyze what sort of business or business requirement they have. It can also not be object storage, but maybe on-prem, or it can be hybrid, right? There are multiple options. They just have to analyze the right solution.
Exactly. That's why you need to check the 5 V's like we discussed before. Exactly. Okay. That's how a company understands the storage requirement by understanding data first.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gabriel, and thank you to all the listeners for tuning in today's episode. We will be back soon with new episodes about new tech topics. Hence, stay with us and subscribe to our newsletter to get all the new updates. Stay tuned.